The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow across the quiet village of Njoro. In the distance, the shadowy outlines of the hills loomed, while the sounds of crickets began to fill the air. It was a peaceful evening, or so it seemed. Just as Kemi was about to settle in for the night, a soft but firm knock echoed through her small home. The village was usually quiet by now, and unexpected visitors after sunset were rare. Her heart skipped a beat as she approached the door. Kemi slowly opened the door to find 3 men standing before her. They were Corpers, in their khaki uniforms, but something about their presence felt wrong. Their eyes didn't carry the usual friendliness she had grown accustomed to from the court members. Kemi swallowed her fear and asked why they were here. Their responses were vague, their eyes darting around the room as if looking for something or someone. The air grew thick with unease as Kemi realized she was in more danger than she initially thought. Feeling the growing danger, Kemi took a step back, attempting to close the door, but one of the court members quickly blocked it with his foot. "We're not done here," he said, his voice cold and demanding. Kemi's heart raced. Before she could react, the court members pushed their way inside, filling her small home with their intimidating presence. Kemi backed away, her mind racing as she tried to figure out how to escape. With a burst of adrenaline, Kemi darted toward the back of the house, hoping to slip out the rear door. But one of the court members was quicker, blocking her path with a wicked grin on his face. Trapped, Kemi stood her ground, her chest heaving with fear and defiance. The 3 core members now circled her, their intentions unclear but menacing. She could feel her heart pounding in her ears as they closed in, the night suddenly feeling too long. Just as the situation seemed dire, a sudden loud bang echoed from outside. All eyes turned toward the door, tension thick in the air. Kemi's breath caught in her throat as she wondered, had someone come to help, or was it something far worse? Kemi's pulse quickened. For a moment, the court members seemed unsure, glancing at one another, their confidence shaken. The tension in the room was palpable, and Kemi's instincts screamed at her to act, but the fear held her in place. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a figure in the dim light. Kemi held her breath. The silhouette was tall and imposing, but as it stepped into the light, she realized it wasn't someone she recognized. The court members, too, looked confused. The man took a step forward, his voice deep and commanding. "What are you doing here at this hour?" His presence was intimidating, and for a moment, Kemi felt a flicker of hope, but something about him still felt off. His eyes held a strange, unblinking intensity. One of the corp members, the short, broad-shouldered one, tried to assert himself. "This is none of your business, old man. You should leave." But the elder remained still, his eyes never leaving them. The air grew colder, and Kemi could feel the shift in the room's energy. Before anyone could react, the elder raised his hand, and a gust of wind blew through the small house, extinguishing the oil lamp. The room plunged into darkness, and Kemi's heart pounded in her chest. She could hear the court members shifting nervously in the dark, whispering among themselves. The court members began to panic, their once intimidating demeanor crumbling in the face of the eerie situation. "What is this?" one of them shouted, but the elder remained silent. Kemi could feel the growing tension, her fear now mixing with a strange sense of anticipation. Suddenly, one of the court members fell to the ground, as if struck by an invisible force. The others froze in place, their faces drained of color. Kemi felt a chill run down her spine. Something otherworldly was happening, but she couldn't tell if it was here to help her or harm her. Kemi saw her chance. While the court members were distracted, she made a silent decision. She couldn't stay here any longer. Slowly, she edged toward the door, careful not to draw any attention. Her heart raced as she neared the threshold, freedom just a step away. But then, the elder's voice cut through the silence. "Not yet," he said softly, sending a shiver down her spine. The court members, realizing the danger they were in, tried to rush past the elder and out the door, but as they moved, an unseen force stopped them in their tracks. They struggled, pushing against the invisible barrier, their fear now undeniable. Kemi watched in horror. What was keeping them trapped? The elder turned his gaze toward Kemi, his voice calm but filled with hidden power. "You're not ready to leave," he said. "There are things you need to know before you can escape this night." Kemi's breath caught in her throat. What did he mean? What was he keeping her from? Kemi's heart raced as the elder began to speak again. "You are at a crossroads, young one. The choices you make tonight will shape your destiny. The darkness you fear is not just outside. It exists within each of us. But understanding that darkness is the first step toward overcoming it." Kemi pondered the elder's words. The fear that gripped her was palpable, but there was also a spark of determination igniting within her. She realized that she held power over her own fate. She could choose to confront the darkness rather than be paralyzed by it. The image of her mother's teachings flooded her mind, reminding her of the strength that lay in resilience. Kimi stepped forward, her voice steady. "I won't let fear dictate my life. I refuse to be a victim." The elder nodded, a faint smile appearing on his lips. The corp members stopped struggling, their attention drawn to her. For the first time, they seemed to recognize her strength rather than her vulnerability. One of the corp members, the tall one, stepped forward cautiously. "We didn't mean any harm. We were just trying to assert ourselves." His voice was softer now, laced with uncertainty. Kemi saw the change in their demeanor, the fear in their eyes slowly morphing into understanding. Kemi took a deep breath, her voice calm. "I understand fear can drive us to do terrible things, but we can choose to face it together." The elder nodded, reinforcing her words with a knowing look. The atmosphere shifted, the tension that once filled the room began to dissolve. With each word spoken, the fear that once consumed them was replaced by a tentative hope. The elder raised his voice, addressing everyone in the room. "Together, we can confront the darkness within ourselves. It's never too late to change." One of the corp members, the broad-shouldered one, finally spoke up, his voice shaky but sincere. "I'm sorry for how we acted. We thought we were just having fun." Kemi smiled gently, realizing they were just misguided, trapped in their own fears. As the elder began to guide them all in a discussion about courage, understanding, and compassion, Kemi felt a wave of relief wash over her. They were learning the most important lesson of all, that facing their fears could unite them rather than divide them. As dawn approached, the elder concluded the meeting. "Always remember, fear can be conquered through understanding and compassion. Seek to understand before you react, for that is the key to true strength." Kemi felt a profound sense of peace. She had faced her fears and emerged stronger. In the face of fear, understanding and compassion hold the power to unite us. When we choose to confront our darkness together, we can find the strength to overcome any challenge. Remember, true courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to face it with empathy and wisdom. Hope you like this story. Subscribe if you find the story interesting.